Welcome back to AA Homestead. I'm Andrew. If you figured it out, Alicia, Andrew, that's how we got the name. Anyways, we're going to talk about our drip irrigation. I don't know if that's been shown to you much, so I want to go through all that. Just a little more detail. I know it's helpful for me when I'm not sure what I'm doing to actually get some details on the situation. So I'll go ahead and walk you through what we have already, and then I came up with a plan to separate the front part from the back part of the garden, the expansion. So we'll go through that. And my apologies if you can hear the lawnmower going in the background, but there's, I guess, never a really good time to make a video. So this is where it all starts. So we got right here, this is where your garden hose is going to come in from the spigot from your house or your well pump, whatever you're using. And then there's an extra hose. This is actually a filter right here. So if it just goes straight through, there's no filtration to it. But out the side, then now it's going to get filtered. And you can see I got this green line here. Let me move inside. It's only a 3-foot hose. And then I got it connected. This is just goes from 3/4 inch garden hose, and that's going down to the 1/2 inch main line. This thread's on, which I can show you in a minute. And then you have your emitters. They just open, close. Right now this one's not hooked up yet. We are still working on that. And then that main line's coming down. You can see all the other rows that are hooked up. Another one that we got to get hooked up yet. And you've seen the brassicas. That's these 2 rows. And then this row with tomato. Currently, what I did for the sunflowers is I just ran it into this elbow, and then I put a cap on it down there, and then came out the side right here. And so that's what's watering our sunflowers. I'm likely going to change that just because this part of the garden is a lot bigger. 1/2 inch main line can do about 4.5 gallons per minute on flow. And then if you have 3/4 inch main line, you can, so if you have 3/4 inch main line, you can actually get 8 gallons a minute. And so that's one of my reasons why I want to go ahead and add a second system in here. I mean, it'll all be connected on the same, just we'll be able to control both sides a little easier. Make sure we get that 100% flow. I just got a bunch of fittings right down there. So what I did here, you already saw at the beginning, I went ahead and connected my garden hose to the back side of that, opposite where it's going to come in from the spigot. Just put some staples in, make sure we cover this corner. Don't mind the bricks. We're still in the process of putting everything in. It's taking a while. So I'm going to go down and just put some staples in this garden hose. That way it stays out of our flowers. If you see all of these here, this is where our flowers are going to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get these done real quick. I'm not putting them in any real length, just kind of 6 feet or so. I just want to hold it in place. Especially running the electric fence, you do not want this thing to be touching it. You don't want anything, because then that's going to cause the fence to go off, and then you're going to lose your power. Never a good thing. You want as many, I believe they refer to it as joules, or yeah, I'm not 100%. I'm not a fence expert. Kind of the beginning of my time using the electric stuff was last year, so just did the research I needed to. Now I'm at the end of this garden hose. Go ahead and keep this stuff here. Come back down here, grab my fittings, because if you're like me, you're never prepared and you never have your stuff in order. So you can see there's fittings that have T's on them. They got elbows. These are the on-off fittings. So normally what I want to do is run my garden hose right to that hookup, but that requires such a small hose, or it requires me to, you know, just cut one, and I don't really feel like I need to cut a perfectly good garden hose. So we're going to do this a different way, and we're going to make it work. Alright, so now that we got this down here, what we want to do is take these extra fittings. This is a pressure regulator. I believe it's 15 psi, correct? And then I got this that I made up already. So this is just a T, because if you recall, I said that this filter goes straight through. So if we just go straight through, we're not filtering. We want to go off the side. So I'm kind of jumbling together some extra fittings here just to make this work, so I don't have to cut up an extra garden hose to make it. I don't know, let's call that maybe 20 feet. So what I do to do that is I just have a heat gun here, and yes, that's a rigid battery on a Milwaukee heat gun. If you're like me and kind of sick of rigid, not coming out with enough tools, even though they're owned by the same company, then you just get this nice little adapter for 20 bucks on eBay, and now you can use your battery with the Milwaukee tools. So what we're going to do first is I want to hook this up. Just going to go ahead and screw that onto my garden hose, and then get that in place. And this obviously comes separate. You just screw that on as well. And then you got a nice little cap here on the end. So that's going to stop the water flow from shooting forward. And now our filter's in place. But to go that way, I don't have something that has the 3/4 inch screw and then with the elbow. So, but I do have this T. And then this is just another piece of this right here with one of these figure eights. Hopefully you can see that okay. And that just goes here, and then that's going to pinch off the tube and then stop that from allowing water to come in. So now I just go ahead and screw this piece onto the pressure regulator. Not that it's going on the easiest, but we'll get there eventually. Okay, there we go. Being a little bit difficult. Once we get that in place, probably should have made sure that was all as it should be in the beginning, but all right, so now that's in place there. And then I got my other main line here, and so if I just take this, add some heat, that's going to allow it to go over that barb a lot easier. Now if you're doing this in like 80, 90 degree day, you probably won't have a problem, but here we're in the 60s. Welcome to Michigan weather. So that's why, again, it's, you know, a week into June, well, several days at least, and we're just now getting our water lines in. Our plants are just getting in. It's kind of a late start compared to anybody in the south. And that just slides on super easy once you get that thing heated up. It makes your life so much nicer. And this just twist on there. So once you get that on there, it goes over that barb. This twist locks it in place. And of course, I want to go ahead and use my staple. Just get that thing pushed down there nice and snug, so it's not going to move anywhere now. And then I've already got it stapled down this way. I just need to go tighten it up, and then we are going to make another turn and go into the garden. Okay, so now we got that in place. You can see I've already got this thing kind of stapled in. We're just going to keep going down here, and then don't mind the mess. If you garden, you understand that things are just kind of everywhere until you get it situated. So what I want to do is I got another T-post right over here. I want to try and run right through there. So the regular garden from last year, that's off this way. Our expansion, that's going to be this way. And then, like I said, I want to try and run all these flowers off of this new line that we just put down. Make it so much easier. your gallons per minute flow, we're going to split that all up. That way we make sure we're not meeting the max of this 1/2 inch main line. So let's go ahead and get started on cutting that and get it sent in there with the help of my lovely wife in a second. Okay, so now we know exactly where we want to cut this thing. I'd like to go here, but we have a hump in the dirt there. I have a nice little dip here, so it seems appropriate. Just we'll lose a few inches and we'll go that way. It's gardening, it doesn't have to be perfect. So let's go ahead and get this thing cut. And definitely cut twice, measure once, as they say. I know it's backwards, but I've already got it, so I'm confident. Now, we got this 90 elbow, so I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to go ahead and heat this up. So much nicer when you just add a little bit of heat to this thing, instead of trying to fight it and then guess if it's all the way in. It only takes a second, not long. I want to try and get it so we're not going to be fighting it, so that way we can get this thing on as straight as possible. Otherwise this thing kind of gets moved all over the place. Okay, now that's on. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down. So now that we got it tight, we do need to get the other side of it brought in before I go ahead and start stapling this in place. I do not want to try to put it on while it's already stapled in. So let's get Alicia to help out with that. Feed this this part right here to me. Just hopefully, yeah, try not to let it get the plants. It's all kind of coiled up in there, so. Oh, we got some dirt that just went in there.
My bad.
It's all right, it happens. I want to try and make sure it's all clean, hence the filter. So, you know, here we go putting filters on, and now we got dirt in. But again, it's okay. It's just a little bit, but you do want to make sure that you don't get it clogged up. So now that this thing wants to do its own thing, just go ahead and heat this up real quick. Thank you, Alicia. Again, it doesn't take too terribly long, just makes our life easier. I think the last time I didn't do it quite enough. Had to fight with it a little bit more, so we'll give this one a few more seconds. Probably call that good here, because things want to go everywhere. Okay, so let's push that on. Oh, that was so much nicer. Go ahead and twist this back out, cover up that hose and lock it in place. Go ahead and grab a staple here. Lock this elbow in, and then now we're gonna go inside the garden and start laying this out. I do have some water line already ran, but that's okay. And I am actually going to tee off of this with a just one of the turn valves for the flowers. So we'll do that here momentarily once we get all of this laid out, and then we'll start finishing it up. So as I'm about to walk in, there's only one entrance, so it takes a while. Figure I might as well just go ahead and show you what it's looking like right now. I know this little hookup here maybe helps to see it from above. It is a little camera strap, sorry. It is a little bit crazy. There's definitely better ways to do that. However, I'm just using what I have, which makes sense, as I'm sure most of you are just going to do the same. So, got my garden hose. I forget the length on this, but if it's all the way down there, it's got to be something like 50 feet. And we'll keep going. Make sure I got one of those figure eights. And then now we'll head down there. Go ahead and walk along our messy garden here. You can see the tomatoes on the right. I do still got to get the water line in there. The beans are definitely coming up. Those ones failed to germinate. We got some new ones in though. now we're over to this mess. So now that I'm here, we're gonna set this up. I'm just gonna let you see what I'm doing. Again, I'm just gonna be putting staples all the way down here until I get over to about that wagon where it's gonna stop. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and try to run this hose out. I did pull up the extra drip tape that I had sitting. We had some going across here to our trellises, but because we're gonna make a little change, I just went ahead and pulled those up, and I'll recap them at the end of our rows. Probably easier just to get this all pulled out first. And go ahead and throw that out there. Hopefully it won't come back on me. I guess it's my lucky day. It actually did something I wanted it to. Usually things in the garden don't go the way you want them to. Now I got this really tucked up against that T-post, right where both Alicia and I wanted it to go. We're gonna run it even a little bit closer this way. Now some of this ground cover has a lot of layers in it, so I am going to probably just go ahead and use the hammer so I don't look ridiculous. That might not have been too bad. Usually you can punch through this ground cover with your staple and just your hand, but once you get 2, 3, 4 layers, it does get a little more difficult, especially with the rusty staples, which work way better than new staples. But I am using the new ones just because it's only waterline, so I'm not too worried about it coming up. I definitely use the rusty ones for the ground cover there. It just holds it in place so much better. If I could buy a box of 1,000 rusty staples, or 1,000 rusty staples, I would. Kind of weird, but if you deal with this ground cover, you'll know exactly what I'm saying. And while I'm at it, we have a problem with birds eating the tops of our beans. 12 years, I've never dealt with that. What you guys got any solutions? Please let me know. Getting a little frustrated with them, and I hear the owls and the snakes don't really work, so just open to suggestions on that. And this row is a bit bigger, so I'm going to go ahead and add another staple right here. Okay, now that I'm at the end of this thing, I'm going to have to tuck underneath this existing drip tape. Maybe it helps if I just grab the camera and help you see it. But okay, so now I got to go under this other tape. By tape, I'm referring to the drip tape here. I did have it in place just because my initial plan was to just keep it going because it's tomatoes, and the rest of the row behind me in the old garden, or old, but it's definitely still new, but that's all tomatoes too. But it just makes sense to just kind of do things in order here and keep it on the same line as the rest of this, taking care of the back of this garden. So now I'm gonna go ahead and go get my cutters and a figure 8. Okay, so now I got this line all the way over here. I am just gonna leave it extra. This is just a walkway, just in case something happens. That way I got some room. I can come back and kind of fix this up. So the way that you do these figure 8s, you just want to probably get this on first, and then go ahead and pinch this, and then we're going to slide it back. As simple as that. I do need one more staple for this. Luckily I have an extra one. Just going to go right over top of them, punch that down, and good to go. And I didn't end up with much extra. That's pretty lucky. Alright, so now that all of that main line is put in place, we're going to start on putting this in. I believe I talked about it earlier. This is just a different valve. It does the same thing, but they give you a little punch tool. It's usually yellow, and you can punch a hole in the main line with it. Personally, I find half the time that just leaks when you do that. So I found the 9/64 drill bit works real well for this. And then this is the start of our row. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a hole down here. Obviously, make sure you are not going through both. Otherwise, yeah, you'll have to put a goof plug in. But once I can get this thing to punch through, I feel like it's in. Sometimes it'll make a snap noise, other times it won't. So now we are in there, and then I have some extra drip tape just from doing the stuff inside the garden, and I do need to come this way a little bit, so I'm just going to go ahead and attach this. This is going to, same thing, it just screws, unscrews. The white lines, they can go on top. So I'm going to go ahead and get this over top of that, and then go ahead and screw that on. Now it does, if you don't hold it, it's going to want to twist on you. Personally, I like the holes up so I can verify that everything is working as it should. And then I need to come to about this spot, because this is going to be the center of our flower row because we have them staggered. So if I take my elbow, again, that's just another fitting, drip tape, and then I ran it to this 90 because we're going to go that way for our flowers. Now if we decide to add some sunflowers off to the right, I can go ahead and put this T in place and I won't have to cut anything else, just add a piece of drip tape that way. Luckily Alicia is here with me, so we're going to add on to this and then run out this row, and I'll show you how we end up pinching off that drip tape so you don't lose any water out the end. Okay, Alicia is going to go ahead and she's got the roll here. You want to turn that around real quick, 180 it. All right. Now I go ahead and put this on. I do make sure that the white lines are facing up. That is where my emitters are. If you have them down, sure, that might be okay for you, but I personally prefer them up so that way I can actually see the water coming out and make sure I don't have an issue with any of my emitters. I should say our emitters, but you get the point. So now I got that in place. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this down. And it works the same as the main line. It's just gonna go on there, gonna create a nice seal. It won't be able to go off of there. Now Alicia's gonna go ahead and start walking that way. All right, you can see she's working her way down, and you see all the holes. That's where our flowers are gonna be. We just run this right down the center, and it looks like it's giving her a little bit of a trouble, but once she gets down there to the end, then we're gonna go ahead and go down there, cut it off, and then I'll show you what we do to pinch this thing off and not lose any water out the end of your drip tape. Okay, so now we got this all the way down. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave a little bit extra, just so when I finally get it and secure, I'm not gonna bore you with me putting staples all the way down this thing. So we're gonna go ahead and cut this off. I'll go actually past my T-post just to give me a little bit extra here. I will show you, I don't know if you can see, right here is the emitter. And so I cut this much extra off. I don't want to cut right here, or I'm not going to be able to get this tied off. You could tie it in a knot going past it, but if you just leave that extra before you get to the other emitter, they have these things here. One side is small, one side's big. You can go ahead and feed right through this small side. So you get it on there like so, and then go ahead and just put that in half. We're going to put that right back through there. And now, once I pinch this in half, just go ahead and pull this back. Just help push that along. And now that drip tape's not going to go anywhere. Now you can do it another way where you feed through, you're going to feed through big side first and then fold in half, go through the skinny side. And I do that, but it does take a little longer, especially on 15 mil. It's a lot harder. The 8 mil stuff, way easier to work with. However, you're more likely to get it damaged as you're walking around. And we did decide to stop here instead of go over our walkway connecting to them sunflowers, just because it's less chance of anything getting damaged or ripped as we go in and out of the garden. Well, thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something here. I know it's a little bit of trial and error when you're doing things yourself, so maybe I saved you a little bit of time. We plan on doing a lot more videos such as this. I'm going to go over like the cost of everything with our electric netting, our fencing, T-post, ground cover. We have so much more to come out, so if you hit the like, subscribe, and the notification bell,